Chapter 5. Every day I learned something new about his planet, how he had left it, and how he had traveled. He told me little by little when the subject came up. So, on the third day, I learned about the tragedy with the baobabs. That, too, was because of a sheep. The little prince seemed suddenly overcome with doubt and asked, "Tell me, is it true that sheep eat bushes?" "Yes, it's true." "That's good." I didn't understand why it was so important that sheep eat bushes, but the little prince added, "So they eat baobabs too?" I replied that baobabs are not bushes, but huge trees, as tall as bell towers, and even if he brought a whole herd of elephants, they would not be able to eat a single baobab. When he heard about the elephants, the little prince laughed. They would have to be stacked on top of each other. And then he said thoughtfully, "Baobabs are very small at first, before they grow up." "That's true. But why would your sheep eat small baobabs?" "Of course," he exclaimed, as if it were the simplest, most obvious truth. And I had to rack my brains before I figured out what was going on. On the little prince's planet, as on any other planet, there are useful and harmful plants. This means that there are good seeds of good, useful plants and harmful seeds of bad, weedy plants. But seeds are invisible. They sleep deep underground until one of them decides to wake up. Then it sprouts, it straightens up and stretches toward the sun, at first so cute and harmless. If it is a future radish or rose bush, let it grow in good health. But if it is some kind of bad weed, you have to pull it out by the roots as soon as you recognize it. And so, on the little prince's planet, there are terrible, harmful seeds. These are baobab seeds. The soil of the planet is completely infested with them. And if you don't recognize a baobab in time, you won't be able to get rid of it later. It will take over the entire planet. It will pierce it through and through with its roots. And if the planet is very small and there are many baobabs, they will tear it to pieces. There is a strict rule, the little prince told me afterwards. Get up in the morning, wash your face, tidy yourself up, and then immediately tidy up your planet. You must weed out the baobabs every day, as soon as you can tell them apart from the rose bushes. Their young shoots are almost identical. It's very boring work, but not difficult at all. Once he advised me to try and draw a picture so that our children would understand it well. "If they ever have to travel," he said, "it will come in handy. Other work can wait a little. It won't do any harm. But if you give the baobabs free rein, trouble is inevitable. I knew a planet where a lazy man lived. He didn't weed 3 bushes in time." The little prince described everything to me in detail, and I drew this planet. I can't stand reading moralizing stories to people. But few people know what a threat baobabs pose, and the danger to anyone who lands on an asteroid is very great. That is why I have decided to break with my usual restraint this time. "Children," I say, "beware of baobabs." I want to warn my friends about the danger that has been lurking for a long time, and they don't even suspect it, just as I didn't suspect it before. That's why I worked so hard on this drawing, and I don't regret the effort. You may ask, why are there no more impressive drawings like this one with baobabs in my book? The answer is very simple. I tried, but I couldn't do it. And when I drew the baobabs, I was inspired by the knowledge that it was terribly important and urgent. Chapter 6. Oh, Little Prince. Little by little, I also understood how sad and monotonous your life was. For a long time, you had only one entertainment. You admired the sunset. I learned about this on the morning of the 4th day, when you said, "I love the sunset very much. Let's go watch the sun go down." Well, we'll have to wait. Wait for what? For the sun to set. At first you were very surprised, but then you laughed at yourself and said, "I feel like I'm at home." And indeed, Everyone knows that when it's noon in America, the sun is already setting in France, and if you could transport yourself to France in a minute, you could admire the sunset. Unfortunately, France is very, very far away, but on your little planet, all you had to do was move your chair a few steps, and you could look at the sunset sky again and again whenever you wanted. Once, in one day, I saw the sunset 43 times, and a little later you added, "You know, when you're very sad, it's good to watch the sunset." So, on the day you saw 43 sunsets, you were very sad? But the little prince did not answer. Chapter 7. On the 5th day, again thanks to the lamb, I learned the secret of the little prince. He asked unexpectedly, without preamble, as if he had come to this conclusion after long, silent reflection. If a lamb eats bushes, does it eat flowers too? It eats everything it finds. Even flowers with thorns? Yes, even those with thorns. Then why do they have thorns? I didn't know. I was very busy. A bolt had jammed in the engine, and I was trying to unscrew it. I felt uneasy. The situation was becoming serious. There was almost no water left, and I began to fear that my forced landing would end badly. Why do they need thorns? Once he asked a question, the little prince would not give up until he got an answer. The stubborn bolt was driving me crazy, and I answered at random. Thorns are useless. Flowers grow them out of spite. Is that so? There was a silence. Then he said almost angrily, I don't believe you. Flowers are weak and simple-minded, and they try to make themselves brave. They think that if they have thorns, everyone will be afraid of them. I didn't answer. At that moment, I said to myself, if this bolt doesn't come loose now, I'll hit it with a hammer so hard that it will fly into pieces. The little prince interrupted my thoughts again. And do you think that flowers? No, I don't think anything. I answered you with the first thing that came to mind. You see, I'm busy with serious work. He looked at me in amazement. Serious work? He kept looking at me, covered in grease, with a hammer in my hands. I was bent over an incomprehensible object that seemed so ugly to him. You talk like an adult, he said. I felt ashamed, and he added mercilessly, You're confusing everything. You don't understand anything. Yes, he was seriously angry. He shook his head, and the wind ruffled his golden hair. I know a planet where there lives a gentleman with a crimson face. He has never smelled a flower in his entire life. He has never looked at a star. He has never loved anyone. And he has never done anything. He is busy with only one thing, adding up numbers. And from morning till night, he repeats one thing. I am a serious man. I am a serious man. Just like you. And he swells with pride. But in reality, he is not a man. He is a mushroom. What? A mushroom! The little prince even turned pale with anger. For millions of years, flowers have grown thorns, and for millions of years, sheep have eaten flowers. So isn't it important to understand why they try so hard to grow thorns if thorns are useless? Isn't it important that sheep and flowers are at war with each other? Isn't that more serious and important than the arithmetic of a fat man with a purple face? What if I know of a flower that is unique in the world, that grows only on my planet, and there is no other like it anywhere else, and one fine morning a little lamb suddenly takes it and eats it and doesn't even know what it has done? And you think that's not important? He blushed deeply. Then he spoke again. If you love a flower, the only one of its kind among millions of stars, that's enough. You look at the sky and you're happy. And you say to yourself, somewhere out there lives my flower. But if a sheep eats it, It's as if all the stars went out at once, and you think that's not important." He couldn't speak anymore. He suddenly burst into tears. It was getting dark. I stopped working. I forgot about the unfortunate bolt and hammer, about thirst and death. On a star, on a planet, on my planet called Earth, the little prince was crying, and he needed to be comforted. I picked him up and rocked him. I said to him, "Nothing will happen to the flower you love. I'll draw a muzzle for your sheep. I will draw armor for your flower. I didn't know what else to say to him. I felt terribly awkward and clumsy. How to call out so that he would hear me, how to catch up with his soul, slipping away from me. For it is so mysterious and unknown, this land of tears." Chapter 8. Very soon, I got to know this flower better. On the little prince's planet, there were always simple, modest flowers. They had few petals, took up very little space, and bothered no one. They opened in the morning in the grass and wilted in the evening. But this one sprouted one day from a seed brought from who knows where, and the little prince kept his eyes fixed on the tiny sprout, which was unlike any other sprout or blade of grass. Could it be a new species of baobab? But the little bush quickly stopped growing upward, and a bud appeared on it. The little prince had never seen such huge buds before, and sensed that he was about to witness a miracle. And the unknown guest, hidden within the walls of her green room, was getting ready, primping herself. She carefully chose her colors. She dressed slowly, trying on one petal after another. She did not want to appear disheveled, like some poppy. She wanted to appear in all the splendor of her beauty. Yes, she was a terrible coquette. The mysterious preparations lasted day after day. And then one morning, as soon as the sun rose, the petals opened, and the beauty, who had put so much effort into preparing for this moment, said yawning, "Ah, I had a hard time waking up. Please excuse me. I'm still quite disheveled." The little prince could not contain his delight. "How beautiful you are." "Yes, really?" was the quiet reply. "And mind you, I was born with the sun." The little prince, of course, guessed that his amazing guest was not overly modest, but she was so beautiful that it took his breath away. And she soon remarked, "It seems it's time for breakfast. Please be so kind as to take care of me." The little prince was very embarrassed, found a watering can, and watered the flower with spring water. It soon became apparent that the beauty was proud and touchy, and the little prince was completely exhausted by her. She had 4 thorns, and once she said to him, "Let the tigers come. I'm not afraid of their claws." "There are no tigers on my planet," replied the little prince. "And besides, tigers don't eat grass." "I'm not grass," the flower said quietly. "Forgive me. No, I'm not afraid of tigers, but I'm terribly afraid of drafts. Don't you have a screen?" "A plant that's afraid of drafts. Very strange," thought the little prince. "What a difficult character this flower has. When evening comes, cover me with a cap. It's too cold here. A very uncomfortable planet. Where I came from—" She didn't finish her sentence. After all, she had been blown here when she was still a seed. She couldn't know anything about other worlds. It's silly to lie when you can be so easily caught out. The beauty blushed, then coughed once or twice to make the little prince feel guilty. "Where is the screen?" "I wanted to go after it, but I couldn't stop listening to you." Then she coughed harder. Let his conscience torment him. Although the little prince loved the beautiful flower and was happy to serve her, doubts soon arose in his heart. He took empty words to heart and began to feel very unhappy. "I shouldn't have listened to her," he said to me one day. "You should never listen to what flowers say. You should just look at them and breathe in their fragrance. My flower filled my whole planet with its fragrance, and I didn't know how to enjoy it. All that talk about claws and tigers. It should have moved me, but it made me angry. And he also confessed. I didn't understand anything then. I should have judged not by words, but by deeds. She gave me her fragrance. She lit up my life. I shouldn't have run away. Behind these pathetic tricks and ruses, I should have guessed tenderness. Flowers are so inconsistent. But I was too young. I didn't know how to love yet. Chapter 9. As I understood it, he decided to wander with the migratory birds. On his last morning, he cleaned his planet more thoroughly than usual. He carefully cleaned out the active volcanoes. He had 2 active volcanoes. They were very convenient for heating up breakfast in the morning. In addition, he had another extinct volcano. But, he said, you never know what might happen. So he cleaned out the extinct volcano, too. When volcanoes are cleaned properly, they burn evenly and quietly, without any eruptions. A volcanic eruption is like a fire in a chimney when soot catches fire. Of course, we humans on Earth are too small and cannot clean our volcanoes. That is why they cause us so much trouble. Then the little prince, not without sadness, pulled out the last baobab seedlings. He thought he would never return. But that morning, his usual work gave him extraordinary pleasure. And when he watered the wonderful flower for the last time and was about to cover it with a cap, he even wanted to cry. "Goodbye," he said. The rose did not answer. "Goodbye," repeated the little prince. She coughed, but it was not a cold. "I was stupid," she said at last. "Forgive me, and try to be happy." And not a word of reproach. The little prince was very surprised. He stood there confused with the glass dome in his hands. Where did this quiet tenderness come from? Yes, I love you," he heard her say. "It's my fault you didn't know that, but it doesn't matter. You were just as foolish as I was. Try to be happy. Leave the cap, I don't need it anymore." "But the wind. I'm not that cold. The night air will do me good. After all, I am a flower. But the animals, the insects. I have to put up with a couple of caterpillars if I want to meet butterflies. They must be lovely. Otherwise, who will come to visit me? You'll be far away. And I'm not afraid of big animals. I have claws, too." And she showed her 4 thorns with simple sincerity. Then she added, "Don't drag it out. It's unbearable. If you've decided to leave, then leave." She didn't want the little prince to see her crying. She was a very proud flower,